really rely a lot on myself and my instincts and my experience and what I understand the expectations to be. That's how I make my decisions. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kayla, and this is where we talk all about project management, particularly in startups and lean teams. And if this is something you're interested in, I would love to invite you to subscribe. And I would also like to ask you to please let me know what it is you would like to hear about on the channel, because I want to make sure I'm talking about things that are interesting to you. Okay, on to today's topic. Today I am going to answer a viewer question that was posted as a comment on one of my recent videos. And the question was something along the lines of, how do you decide when you want to use Agile versus Waterfall methodology in your projects? And I thought this was a really interesting question. And I have to start out by saying I don't subscribe to any one methodology or theory or way of doing things. I don't subscribe to any one over the other. I am like a hybrid person through and through, and most of the time I rely on my myself and my experience and what I know about whatever work it is that I'm doing and how project management will help that work. That's how I make my decisions about how I will manage the project. I also think it's interesting because we're seeing a shift in project management where 5, 10, 15 years ago, people were very serious about whatever method that they were learning or that they were trained in or that they believed in and had seen work in their particular line of work. So it was like, it's either Agile or it's nothing. It's not even project management at all. And I'm totally exaggerating here. Of course, there have been hybrid approaches since the beginning of time. And I am really picking on Agile here as well, which I don't mean to. But that's sort of what we saw like 5, 10, 15 years ago even. People were very serious about these specific ways of managing projects. And honestly, what I've seen, at least in my experience and the industry that I've worked in, is that's not really the best way to manage projects. I see hybrid approaches being much more successful. But with that being said, there are certainly projects and times where I see myself falling more into like a waterfall way of managing projects versus a more agile, or we could even say like iterative approach to managing projects. And I'll give you a few examples of when I might use one over the other. So with waterfall, I find myself using waterfall if I know projects are going to be managed using largely the same steps over and over. If it's a project or an end result that we've already produced before, and we maybe have like a formula for how to go about producing it again. So for example, when I worked in video production, we used largely a waterfall method to produce these videos. We had a certain formula for how we produce these videos. We had made so many over time that we had developed this basically a formula that helped us produce these. And while every video was different, the steps were the same. And if we needed to adapt or change things, we could do so within the steps, but that didn't really change the actual formula of the project and how we moved the project through the stages. So that's an example of when I use waterfall. Actually, often when I work on agency projects in general, we use more of a waterfall method where it's like, this is stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and we'll just put that project through and adapt as we need to. Obviously, there are some, sometimes when you need to go back and change things and you realize that you could have done something better, so you go back and make it better, improve on it and move forward. But for these projects that are very prescriptive, they're formulaic, we've done them before, we know what the steps are, maybe they're more time bound, they are more specific in terms of policies and procedures and how we're actually doing this, we might set that up in a more waterfall sort of a way. Now, when I'm working on software projects, we often use a more iterative approach because while we know what we believe our expected result to be, this is something new. We haven't done it before, so we're learning as we're going, and we need to build into the process flexibility for that learning and flexibility to make changes and adapt and go back and this and that and the other. Also, there's often not, one final deliverable that we are giving to the client. In the case of these agency projects that I'm talking about, there's a final deliverable at the end there. With software, we're often delivering continuously. We're building something and seeing how it works, building something, making improvements, seeing how it works, and delivering continuously over time. So we take a more iterative approach to it. That's my experience. Those are a big chunk of the type of projects that I've worked on and the different ways that I might use Agile versus Waterfall. Personally, in projects that I manage, things like event management, property management, stuff like that, I find myself using more of a waterfall approach as well, but you could definitely benefit from pulling in some of these aspects of Agile or more iterative approaches to improving that process and improving how you're managing projects. The concept really for me is to make the best decisions that I can on each project, but staying open-minded throughout. Like, I don't ever want to get, for me, I never want to get to the point where I'm like, this is the right way to do things always, like this is how I'm always going to do things. I like to stay open-minded. That's one of the reasons why I don't have these letters after my name. Because I want to really learn from my experience and learn from what I'm actually doing, and then develop methods for what are the best strategies going forward. So that's my thinking behind this and how I would go about deciding between a more iterative approach versus a waterfall approach. I hope that's helpful to you. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help. Talk to you soon. Bye.